Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. For those who are able, please rise for a moment of personal reflection. Merci. Thank you. All right. I will ask the deputy clerk now to please do the roll call.
Councillor Luloff.
Present.
Councillor Dudas.
Ici.
Councillor Hill.
Present.
Councillor Curry.
Here.
Councillor Kelly.
Present.
Councillor Gower.
Here.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Present.
Councillor Johnson.
Here.
Councillor Devine.
Present.
Councillor Bradley.
Here.
Councillor Tierney.
Present.
Conseil Plante.
Ici.
Councillor King.
Here.
Councillor Troster.
Here.
Councillor Leeper.
Present.
Councillor Brockington.
Here.
Councillor Menard.
Present.
Councillor Carr.
Here.
Councillor Kitts.
Here.
Councillor DeRuse.
Here.
Councillor Brown.
Here.
Councillor DeRush.
Present.
Councillor Hubley. Councillor Lowe.
Here.
Mayor Sutcliffe.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Merci. So now we'll do the confirmation of the minutes of the council meeting of the 9th of November. Carried. Thank you. We have received no declarations of interest. The communications received are noted on your agenda from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. No regrets were received, and we have no announcements. So I will ask Councillor Gower to move a motion to introduce reports. Councillor Gower.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the report from the City Clerk entitled Summary of Oral and Written Public Submissions for Items Subject to the Planning Act Explanation Requirements at the City Council meeting of November 9th, 2022 be received and considered, and that the report from the City Clerk entitled 2022 to 2026 Council Governance Review be received and tabled for consideration by Council at its meeting on December 7th, 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Gower. This is seconded by Councillor Kitts. Is this carried? Thank you. All right, moving to the 2022-2026 Council Governance Review. Examen de la structure de gestion publique 2022 à 2026 du Conseil. We're presenting and tabling this today. Questions, debate, and motions related to the governance report are not in order today, as members have not yet read the report, but will be in order at our next meeting on December 7th. The city clerk and staff will be available between now and December 6th to answer questions or receive any motions on the report. Do members have any questions to the clerk or his staff on process? Okay. Before we receive the report, I would like to advise council that as in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001, as amended by Bill 3, the Strong Mayors Building Homes Act 2022 and regulations, I have delegated to council in writing the mayor's assigned powers with respect to committees under section 284.8 of the Municipal Act 2001. This will provide for council to establish or dissolve standing committees, appoint committee chairs and vice chairs, and assign functions to committees for the 2022 to 2026 term of council through consideration of the 2022 to 2026 council governance review report. So I've signed the document to delegate authority to council on that. This written delegation is included as document 24 of the governance report. Is the governance report received and tabled? Merci. All right, item 11.1, summary of oral and written public submissions for items subject to the Planning Act, explanation requirements at the City Council meeting of November 9th, 2022. Is this carried? All right, we have no in-camera items, so I will move now to item 13, motion to adopt reports. Councillor Gower.
That the report from the city clerk entitled Summary of Oral and Written Public Submissions for Items Subject to the Planning Act Explanation Requirements at the City Council meeting of November 9th, 2022 be received and adopted as amended.
Seconded by Councillor Kitts. Is this received and adopted? Okay, thank you, everyone. Merci. Moving to item 14, motions requiring suspension of the rules of procedure. Our first item is a motion regarding the appointment of the interim city manager. So first of all, on suspension of the rules, is this carried? And then we'll introduce the motion. So carried. All right. Again, Councillor Gower, if you could move the motion, please.
Thank you. And it's seconded by Councillor Dudas. Whereas on November 28, 2022, Steve Kanalakos advised council that he would be resigning as city manager of the City of Ottawa effective immediately. And whereas in accordance with the statutory officer recruitment, appointment, and contract administration policy, it is anticipated that the city will initiate a comprehensive executive search for a new city manager in the coming weeks. And whereas the City of Ottawa requires stable leadership during the coming months, including to support council in considering the 2023 draft budget. And whereas on November 30th, 2022, Mayor Sutcliffe advised City Council that he had delegated to Council his authority under Section 284.5 of the Municipal Act 2001 to appoint an acting chief administrative officer of the municipality in accordance with subsection 284.13.1 of the Municipal Act 2001 and regulations. And whereas by virtue of bylaw 2019-390, Wendy Stephenson may retain her statutory role as treasurer for the City of Ottawa while acting as city manager, but requires an acting chief financial officer to manage the finance services department and to whom those statutory duties may be delegated. Therefore, be it resolved that Wendy Stephenson, Chief Financial Officer, be appointed interim city manager of the City of Ottawa effective immediately, and be it further resolved that Cyril Rogers be appointed as the acting Chief Financial Officer effective immediately.
Thank you, Councillor Gower. That's seconded by Councillor Dudas. I'll mention here again that I want to advise Council that I have delegated power to Council in writing for the purposes of considering and approving this motion with respect to the appointment of an interim city manager in accordance with subsection 284.13, paragraph 1 of the Municipal Act 2001. The clerk will post a copy of the written delegation with the minutes from this meeting. Any questions or comments on the motion? Okay. Is this motion carried? Thank you, everyone. Let's move to the next motion on Bill 23. Again, on suspension of the rules. Carried. All right, Councillor Leeper, if you'd like to read the motion, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Colleagues, I know all of us have concerns about Bill 23, which has passed. The motion, as originally written by Councillor Dudas and myself, has been reflected or updated to reflect that it has passed, and we've changed some of the language to reflect further actions the council would be asking the province to take. If you will bear with me for just a moment, I'll read the motion out. Whereas Bill 23, More Homes Built Faster 2022, proposes extensive changes to several acts and regulations, including the Development Charges Act, Planning Act, Municipal Act, and whereas in combination with Bill 109, these changes will have significant impacts on municipal financing, processes, and operational matters. And whereas the city supports the overarching objective of Bill 23, which is to address the need for housing and to provide the housing capacity and planning framework necessary to stimulate home building across the province. And whereas several of the proposed amendments represent a positive step toward achieving this goal and complement bold actions already taken by Ottawa City Council to increase housing supply. And whereas Bill 23 will compromise our efforts to improve the quality of the buildings and the public realm, compromise the work of the Urban Design Review Panel, and limit staff's ability to implement good urbanism across all building types. And whereas Council is concerned about the reduction in environmental oversight that will result in the loss of diverse and mature ecosystems, which will have immediate and long-term environmental and climate change impacts, including increased flooding risk. And whereas there are concerns regarding the changes to parkland and development charge collection for supporting infrastructure and transportation, and whereas DC's development charges are critical to build the infrastructure needed to support development. And if the city doesn't get this funding, then residents may not receive the infrastructure they reasonably expect, or property taxes will need to be raised in an inequitable manner. And therefore be it resolved that City Council requests that the province delay implementation of Bill 23, the More Homes Built Faster Act 2022, to allow for more fulsome analysis and meaningful consultation and collaboration with municipalities and other stakeholders. And be it further resolved that City Council requests the province to consider further amendments to Bill 23 to preserve the city's high performance development standard, parkland provisions, community benefits charges, and development charges to facilitate responsible growth. And be it further resolved, City Council requests that the province allow a review of the reduction in environmental oversight that will have immediate and long-term environmental impacts, such as increased flooding risk. And be it further resolved, City Council requests the province commit to considering amendments to the Planning Act to enable the implementation of inclusionary zoning across the city and incorporate definitions of affordable housing that respond to low and moderate household income. And be it further resolved, City Council direct the city manager and the city treasurer make public the financial impacts of Bill 23 and outline the impact on specific capital projects that will need to be deferred or delayed in each ward. And be it further resolved, City Council requests the province enact a regulation to permit the use of conditional zoning, paragraph 71, 124, and subsection 3416 of the Planning Act. And be it further resolved, City Council requests the province delay the implementation of refunds for development applications pursuant to Bill 109 in light of the significant changes to the planning regulations and internal city processes regarding development. And be it further resolved that the province expedite ongoing consultation with municipalities to determine a province-wide framework to protect renters who have low household income and existing affordable rental stock. And be it further resolved, City Council requests that the provincial government provide additional funding and funding tools to the city, matching the amount of revenue lost through development charges, community benefits charges, and Section 42 of the Planning Act and Bill 23 to ensure the services needed to facilitate growth continue to be delivered. And be it further resolved that the province reconsider proposed changes to the Ontario Heritage Act and its regulations and convene a working group with municipalities to review this issue. Colleagues, obviously this does a lot with a single motion, but I know that we have concerns right across the full gamut of the Planning Act changes and other act changes that the province has passed with Bill 23. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Leeper. We'll open it up now to questions or comments, beginning with Councillor Gower.
Thank you. Thank you to the mover for introducing this motion. I think it covers many of the concerns that we've heard from the community and other stakeholders. I wanted to ask staff about your plans over the coming days or weeks in terms of helping to interpret the legislation and what it means for planning in our city. What's planned over the next little bit?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly staff are working through the changes. There will be an update memo to council in the coming days in terms of what happened through the royal assent and the passing of Bill 23. There were a few changes that were made that we will highlight since our last memorandum. We're also working to start to track some of the financial impacts, which will take time. There's unknown elements of that will take some time to work through. And in terms of the impact on our processes and reports, we expect to be coming back to you in Q1 with a more fulsome response.
The City of Mississauga has set up an information page on their website where they have almost clause by clause a Q&A and a myths and facts around Bill 23. Are we planning anything similar for the City of Ottawa?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we are planning to develop a site on Engage Ottawa. There's a lot of questions around Bill 23 that communities, residents, all stakeholders have. So we're working, to prepare a frequently asked question page. A lot of the memos to council will be reposited there, and further analysis as we develop it. So yes, we are working on that.
Okay, I know other members have questions, so I'll stop there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gower. Councillor Brockington.
Thanks, Mayor. And again, thank you to my colleagues for moving the motion. This is a really good example where the objectives are good. That is, we want to build more housing across this province, but you're using and abusing tools at your disposal. That is the upper level of government to that will result in collateral damage, particularly for municipalities with the implementation of this bill. And I struggle to think of another issue where there is such unanimous agreement among municipalities, large or small, rural, urban, where we're all united in saying, yes, we want to build more housing. No one is disputing that issue, but the proposed and now the passed legislation is going to be detrimental to municipalities across this province. And the financial impacts, as our now acting city manager laid out in a previous memo to us, are very clear. The impacts will be significant. So just a few questions, Mayor. I'd like to know if staff, through their workings with their counterparts across this province, if they've heard whether or not the province has even acknowledged that there will be significant financial impacts and downloads to the municipalities, and whether or not the province has acknowledged any type of financial offset that may come to municipalities, recognizing that there are some significant financial or revenue offlays because of development charges in particular. So what are they hearing through their professional counterparts?
Mr. Mayor, I'll start, and perhaps the city manager may add on. In terms of, I think the councillors characterized it well. The response has been very unified across the province, from municipalities, from organizations such as the CAOs, city treasurers, planning commissioners. You're right. I've never seen a more unified response to such legislation. And the financial impacts have been front and center on all of those responses. So certainly the province has received them. There's no indication that I'm aware of that they have a plan for addressing those gaps that will be created through Bill 23. We've certainly seen nothing concrete at this point.
I appreciate that. The motion keeps referencing that we want to inform the province. And I just want to make sure that once this motion is passed, we're clear on how our communications will be sent to the province. So perhaps the mover can clarify, but my expectations, Mayor, is that we will send communication to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, that we'll send our communications to the Premier, that we will send communications to the party leaders of the NDP, Liberal and Green parties, that we will copy local MPPs in the Ottawa area. And I would also like to request that AMO get a copy of our past motion as well to make sure AMO is aware of the City of Ottawa position. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brockington. Councillor Menard.
Thanks very much, Mayor. Thank you to the mover and seconder of the motion. This is the latest in a series of bills at the provincial level that are going to affect municipalities in a very negative way. I know our clerk's office is dealing with this, our finance staff are dealing with this, our planning staff are all dealing with this now. It goes along with changes to Bill 39, which is weaving its way through the legislature now, that would change a majority to a third of council to pass bylaws if they're in line with provincial priorities, a completely undemocratic move. We also had unilateral changes to our official plan. So the adding of the urban boundary, which we all know is extremely costly for our city. And we need to do all we can, I think, to push back and make sure that we're gating those lands where possible with our planning folks, because they've done it with population and growth figures that have yet to be proven. What they put out and what they say that our population growth will be does not seem accurate, and it's completely the opposite of what we were saying in our official plan. So the cost to municipalities, I mean, really, what this is a tax increase for ratepayers all across the province of Ontario. We were heading in the direction of changing our R1 or R2 through the comprehensive zoning bylaw review. Anyone on planning committee knew that we were going in that direction. And in some cases, I think there was going to be stronger changes while keeping development charges and maybe changing those charges. There were going to be stronger changes to R1 and R2 in that comprehensive zoning bylaw review, without the negative impact on ratepayers. And so I think the municipality should be, if we have tax increases as a result of what the province is doing here, we should call that the Doug Ford provincial conservative tax increase. We should put it right on the tax bill. This is how much your taxes are going up because they're downloading municipal costs onto the city and providing more financial support to large development corporations through urban boundary, sprawl, and through development charge reductions. So I think, I appreciate this motion, happy to support it, but I think our staff, we need to do all we can to resist this at the local level and spell it out for why there's pressure on our taxes and where it's coming from. And we need to do that through gating of lands that are being added, as well as, the concerns around the additional taxes coming from Bill 23. And of course, the mayor has been steadfast in saying we'll not use those powers of a third being a majority, and appreciate those comments. I think that's part of pushing back on some of this legislative moves that are not helpful for our municipality or our ratepayers in Ottawa. So appreciate the motion and happy to support it today. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Menard. Councillor Curry.
Thank you. And thank you for that. I will be supporting this motion. I guess the only thing I'm not happy about is that there's so much in this motion. I think I would have preferred to see some of this stuff separated out to make more impact. I think, we're trying to make a major statement here that we're not happy with a lot of it. We're not happy with the way it was brought about. The legislation, that's just not the way we do things or should do things. However, I think there's so many important points in this motion that some of it might get lost. And I just wonder, really, this is a boring question to the clerk, but the way this is written, does this stop us from coming forward with any individual motions on specific topics because it's all in one now and it would just be redundant if we brought forward a separate motion on a topic?
And Mr. Mayor, if the intent is to do something different than what is presently in front of council, then no, it wouldn't stop you. If it's to reiterate it in some form, yes, that largely would be out of order.
Well, let's hope people come up with something different. That we're not saying anything redundant because it's what's in here is very good. Anyway, I'll be supporting it overall. I don't know that it'll make a big difference, but I will support it.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. Conseillère Plante.
Oui, merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. I just want to say that Bill 23 doesn't set out a plan for converting empty buildings, not only in the national capital, but across the province for the past 3 years. Workers have been working from home and we're facing a housing crisis, and Bill 23 doesn't talk about incentives on this either. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Plant.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you very much to the mover and seconder. I will be supporting this motion. I think the thing that concerns me most is the dilution of the notion of what affordable housing actually is in this bill. I think we can agree that there are really good reasons to sometimes discount development charges for the kind of development that we want to see, specifically deeply affordable housing. But as someone who's representing one of the neighborhoods in the city with the highest rate of poverty, I'm very concerned about this incredibly broad category, including attainable housing, which is not even a term that's defined in the bill, essentially making this a huge cash grab for developers. So I'm very committed to working with developers to build deeply affordable housing in our community, but to further dilute what that actually means does a real disservice to the people living in poverty in our community. Just one question to city staff. Do we have any sense of what that if we wanted to replace the income to the city that would be lost from this bill, what that would represent in terms of a percentage tax increase?
Councillor, I think in the memo, we were talking about $50 million upwards to about 60. A 1% tax increase would be about $19 million. So that's about 3% if we're talking $60 million. 3%.
What percent? Sorry? 3%. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Troster. Next, Councillor Devine.
Merci, monsieur. What do I do? What do I do differently now?
I think you have to mute your computer.
Well, hello, everybody. Merci, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
My colleagues for putting this motion forward. I certainly am supportive of this motion. I'm supportive of the objective of the motion. I'm supportive of the spirit behind the motion. What I'm most intrigued to discover is what might be the actual tangible benefits from the motion should it be passed. I did have a conversation with my colleague about what the goal is now that the bill has been passed, and it seems like the image I have is that a wrecking ball is placed on the field, and my goal now is whether I can delay, because if this motion is about delaying the implementation of the bill, what might happen during that delay and how can we best be served by it? And whether that means we delay the wrecking ball from swinging or if we diminish the wrecking ball in size and therefore impact. So my question, I'm not sure if my question is to staff or to the mayor or to council, but staff was making reference to the fact that we have an unprecedented united response from municipalities in response to Bill 23. And I think we can and should take advantage of that unified response. And so I think my question is similar to how there was response to Bill 28 and how that unified response led to a repeal of that bill. Are there initiatives either from staff or will there be initiatives from council to take advantage of that unified response among municipalities and work with municipalities to somehow present a unified front? And can that be a tangible action that either staff or we take forward?
I'm not sure who you're directing the question
Well, that's
to.
I'm not sure, because I whether it's, so I'll ask staff, because staff has colleagues, but we have colleagues as well. So I'll direct my question to staff. Is there an opportunity, and are we taking advantage of an opportunity to work with your counterparts to take advantage of the unified response that you are seeing from municipalities across the province?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of the question, certainly we are working, through our various professional organizations. We heard AMO has weighed in, various, the conservation authorities, urban design review panels. There have been unified submissions made across the province. So this motion, I think, would build on those efforts and continue those efforts until, the bill has not been proclaimed as of yet. So certainly we are continuing to share information with our colleagues across the province, and the messaging is being informed by that in terms of websites and pushing out social media. That's another aspect that's being worked on, and we're sharing information across the province. So I'm not sure that answers your question completely, but
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Devine. Councillor Luloff, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thanks to the mover and seconder. I agree with much of what's in this motion, a great deal of what's in this motion. I'm very concerned with the tax increases that may be required to make up the difference here. My residents in the city can't afford another 3% tax increase on whatever else we may be discussing throughout this term. My well-documented reasons for not supporting inclusionary zoning the way that our city has decided to structure it without incentives precludes me from being able to support the motion, however. A direction to staff moved at the meeting where inclusionary zoning was adopted has not been responded to and remains outstanding right now. So in my opinion, as written in the Ottawa context, IZ is a bad policy that will not achieve the stated outcomes and will in fact have the reverse effect as it has in San Francisco, California, and Portland, Oregon. So I can in good conscience support this motion, despite the fact that I agree with so much of what's in it. I agree with my friend from Canada North that this would have been better as separate motions. And I'd rather not throw the baby out with the bathwater on this, but I can't be a party to requesting that we apply a poor policy to a larger area, possibly worsening the situation that we're already in. And again, unfortunately, my dissent will have a very similar outcome to this motion as a whole. Very little. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Luloff. Councillor King.
Thank you, Your Worship. I thank the mover and the seconder of this motion because it reiterates the fact that Bill 23 is bad legislation. The newly passed law puts at risk Ottawa's ability to build and maintain the infrastructure that our residents expect. The bill simply transfers the cost of growth from developers to residents. By eliminating development charges, the province has put us in an impossible situation. We will not have enough revenue to pay for our infrastructure needs. Bill 23 will deplete the city's budget and cost Ottawa over $60 million in lost estimated revenue per year by 2025. These are the much needed dollars that we use to build parks, maintain roads, and improve public transit. Under the new bill, the city will not have the financial resources to provide local infrastructure to facilitate new development, leading to both increased costs for taxpayers as well as less infrastructure. As we know, development charges are earmarked for capital projects such as bridges, fire stations, and community and recreational facilities that allow our city to grow. Bill 23 eliminates those development charges purportedly to incentivize developers. But we know that all this bill does is take money earmarked to improve the community and gives it directly to developers without any guarantee that it will lower the costs of housing, increase the tempo of construction, or result in new affordable housing. The bill will force this council to undertake rigorous universal review of city finances. We know market conditions determine the cost of housing, not the cost to build. Eliminating development charges won't reduce housing prices, but will only guarantee that the city will have to examine the starkest choice between exponential property tax increases or reductions in capital projects and city services to make up the revenue shortfall. Bill 23 is also an affront to residents since it removes their capacity to meaningfully engage in a fair and transparent urban planning process due to the law's removal of planning file considerations. The new legislation will also result in the loss of built heritage protections and will facilitate sprawl in ecologically vulnerable areas such as wetlands. While we can all agree on the need for more affordable homes, it is evident that this legislation will not achieve this goal. The cost to the environment, to the municipal finance structure, and most importantly, to our democratic rights is too high a price to pay. This legislation needs to be opposed vigorously, and therefore I'm in full support of this motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor King. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the mover and seconder on this motion. And welcome everyone to our first day of council. I'm very encouraged to be sitting at the table with everyone. I just wanted to put forward that we have acknowledged that this bill has passed. And so now it becomes a question of leadership as to how we move forward to address the goals that we espouse. Certainly, we talk about climate change, and affordable housing was mentioned by Councillor Troster. So I will be very excited to further discuss the opportunities for creating housing out of market, because I think that this bill specifically is interested in market housing. And we did found the Ottawa Community Land Trust in the community. That is a nonprofit, federally incorporated not-for-profit that holds land in perpetuity for affordable housing. So we do have options on the table here for the City of Ottawa to further our affordable housing goals, but it will require bold political leadership to perhaps remove land out of the purview of the province and decide that someone else will be the steward of this land. So I look forward to furthering the conversation on non-market housing. I think it could be an interesting opportunity for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Leeper, did you want to add anything?
Just I'll express my gratitude to colleagues for their strong support for this motion. And I would point out as well, the City of Ottawa has not been a laggard in terms of approving new housing. My challenge to the province, had we had a full process and a good discussion in the province about whether or not this bill is needed, would be to put on the table the evidence that demonstrates that this bill is actually needed. I still think about the planning committee meeting that was held, the last planning committee meeting of the last term of council, in which I believe something like 172 floors of new high-rise building were approved in Kitchissippi Ward alone. There are thousands of units that have been approved to be built that are not moving forward. My question to the Premier would be, is the public interest being served by gutting the tools that we need in order to build a sustainable city in order to solve a problem that I am not convinced exists? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Leeper. Is the motion carried?
Dissent.
Dissent. Dissent, Mr. Mayor.
Yeas and nays, Mr. Mayor. There's a lot of dissents happening.
So Councillor DeRuse, I think, dissented?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Dissenting as well, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
we can call the vote if you like. Okay.
Councillor King,
Yes.
Councillor Desroches,
Oui.
Councillor Dudas,
Yes.
Councillor Brown,
Yes.
Councillor Brockington,
Yes.
Councillor Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Councillor Kitts,
Yes.
Councillor Curry,
Yes.
Councillor Hubley,
No.
Councillor Carr,
Yes.
Councillor Leeper,
Yes.
Councillor Tierney,
Yes.
Councillor Devine,
Yes.
Councillor Troster,
Yes.
Councillor Gower,
Yes.
Councillor Johnson,
Yes.
Conseil Plante,
Oui.
Councillor DeRuse,
No.
Councillor Bradley,
Yes.
Councillor Lowe,
Yes.
Councillor Luloff,
No.
Councillor Hill,
No.
Councillor Menard,
Yes.
Councillor Kelly,
Yes.
Mayor Sutcliffe,
Yes.
21 yeas and 4 nays.
Carried. Thank you. All right, next we have a motion from Councillor Menard, seconded by Councillor Luloff, regarding our FCM representative, Councillor Tierney. This is time sensitive, so on the suspension of the rules, is this carried?
Carried.
All right, Councillor Menard.
Thanks so much, Mayor. And there's a meeting on December 8th, 2022 at FCM. And, I'm a proud former staff member there. I know there's other former staffers here, Arl Troster. And just the reason this motion is coming forward is that there's meetings coming up and some important business to take care of. So whereas council has traditionally appointed its representatives to municipal organizations early in the term of council, and usually for the duration of the term of council, whereas Councillor Tierney has been Ottawa City Council's representative at FCM since 2012 and currently serves as the director on the board of directors and Ontario Caucus chair, whereas all positions on FCM's board of directors are filled by election on an annual basis as outlined by FCM bylaws during the annual conference in June 2023. And whereas the annual conference in June, Councillor Tierney intends to seek nomination for the position of third vice president of the board. And should he be successful, there would be a potential opportunity for another member of council to fill the vacancy. And whereas early in 2023, there will be the opportunity for additional members of council to be approved to attend the 2023 annual conference, where it would be beneficial for the City of Ottawa to continue to have representation on the FCM board until the annual conference. Therefore, be it resolved that council approve Councillor Tierney as the City of Ottawa's representative to FCM until the latter of June 2023, or until such a time as council chooses to revisit this appointment. Thanks, Mayor.
All right. I'm expecting a lot of robust debate on this. Any questions or comments? No? Come on. Tim. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank you and I want to thank council. I love representing the City of Ottawa at FCM. And again, having Sean and Ariel a part of council now is something monumentous. It's going to be great, their participation within FCM over the next 4 years. So thank you very much, Councillor Menard, for moving that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Is this motion carried?
Carried.
Thank you, everyone. Councillor Kavanaugh has a motion seconded by Councillor Johnson regarding Bill 39. So again, on suspension of the rules, is this carried?
Carried.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Whereas Bill 39, the Better Municipal Governance Act 2022 was approved on second reading and was referred to Ontario's Standing Committee on Heritage, Infrastructure and Cultural Policy on November 23rd, 2022. And whereas Bill 39 provides that if a head of council is of the opinion that a bylaw could potentially advance a prescribed provincial priority, the head of council may propose the bylaw and require city council to consider and vote proposed bylaw at a meeting. In such cases, the bylaw will be passed if more than 1/3 of the members of council vote in favor of the bylaw. Whereas Ottawa City Council has always conducted its business with a firm commitment to the basic principles of democracy, open debate, and inclusive decision-making. Whereas Ottawa's Mayor and City Council are in agreement that the principle of democracy currently in place should be protected. Therefore, be it resolved that Ottawa City Council opposes Bill 39 and requests that the Province of Ontario maintain the requirement under the Municipal Act 2001 to have majority approval, 50% plus one, to pass bylaw or resolution at Ottawa City Council. And be it further resolved that a copy of this motion be sent to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and the Clerk of the Standing Committee of Heritage, Infrastructure and Cultural Policy for distribution to committee members. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanaugh. Again, seconded by Councillor Johnson. Any questions or comments? Okay, is this motion carried?
Carried.
Thank you, everyone. Next, I understand that the motion that's under item 15 on the agenda for the motion from Councillor Darouze. Councillor Darouze, you'd like to suspend the rules of procedure to vote on that motion today. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so this is a motion regarding Country Hill Estates, the application deadline extension on suspension of the rules. Carried. All right, Councillor Darouze.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just a time sensitive and Country Hill Estate has been historical issue that the city inherited from Osgood Township. So I'll read it quick. Whereas Country Hill Estate is a unique development registered prior to amalgamation in which the former Township of Osgood participated within the ownership interest, and whereas it was anticipated that certain lands within the subdivision would have landscape, grass, ditches, and whereas the rocky nature of such a land renders the permanent grass landscape nature of such a ditch is not available. And whereas the lots within the third phase has not been yet sold and will provide revenue to the city as they are sold. And whereas Council on June 22nd, 2002 carried a motion in respect Country Hill Estate that provided all the information needed, which is in front of you on the screen. Whereas the documentation be sent to the property owners has not been finalized, as thus additional time is required to allow for the property owners to request the funding. Therefore, be it resolved that the deadline for the property owners to request funding pursuant to Council Item 24.7 adopted on June 22nd, 22 to be extended to be the end of the calendar month, that is 90 days after information package is mailed to the resident, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeRuz. Any questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Menard?
Thanks very much, Mayor. Just staff comment on this would be helpful, maybe to fill us in a little bit more.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. My name is Tim Mark. I'm with Legal Services. Council carried the motion in June, which allows for a compensation package or compensation amount to be paid to the owners in portions of Country Hill, because as the motion says, they are not getting the ditches, the landscape ditches that they expect. The deadline for requesting the package is December 31st. Staff have not yet sent out the material. There was information to garner. And so to ensure that the residents have an adequate time to respond, the motion extends the deadline from December the 31st at the end of this year to essentially 3 months after the package is mailed. So it's essentially the same motion that was carried in June, just a deadline that is some months later.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up, Mayor. So how would it normally work in this sense for residents of rural areas that have ditches that they would require as part of new builds?
Mr. Mayor, as was outlined in the original motion, this is a unique circumstance. This is a pre-amalgamation subdivision where the former township of Osgood essentially acted as a landowner. I don't think there's a similar situation in the city, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, this subdivision, we own it, and there's no other situation in the city of Ottawa. We inherited this, and we tried to clean the Osgood Township inheritance that we got since amalgamation. Just clarification to my colleague, we already discussed that, and we put the motion forward. We have the package highlighted in the motion. We're just trying to extend the time, because if you mail the package right now to the resident, you're giving them 30 days between Christmas and New Year's. Really, those 2 weeks, everybody's on vacation, and they can't even get someone to be able to give them a quote on those work. So it's only time extended, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeRuz. Any other questions or comments? Okay, is the motion carried? Thank you, everyone. So we'll move to item 15 now, notices of motion for consideration at subsequent meeting, avis de motion pour examen à une réunion subséquente. We will start with a motion from Councillor Curry, seconded by Councillor Hubley, regarding the Police Services Board Chair. Councillor Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would you like me to read them all now, and then I won't have to read them when they do come to the next meeting? Yeah? Okie dokie. Whereas the Police Services Act requires City Council to appoint 2 members of council to the Ottawa Police Services Board in addition to the mayor, as well as a third appointee who is neither a member of council nor an employee of the municipality, the public member. And whereas the Police Services Act requires the Ottawa Police Services Board to annually elect a chair from among its membership, and whereas the position of chair of the Police Services Board is one of significant responsibility requiring a substantial personal commitment of time and resources, whereas a part of the 2018-2022 midterm governance review, council approved funding for a budget credit equivalent to approximately half an FTE to support the chair of the Police Services Board, should a member of council be elected as chair. And whereas the City of Ottawa has historically provided an honorarium to the public member of the Police Services Board in the amount of $12,000, where the public member is elected as the chair of the Police Services Board. And whereas the City of Toronto and other large municipalities across Ontario provide for the chair of their respective police services boards a higher level of remuneration that is commensurate with the complexity and time requirements of the position. Whereas the Office of the City Clerk is currently undertaking a recruitment process for public members to be appointed by Council to the City of Ottawa's boards, committees, and agencies, including the public member of the Police Services Board. Whereas the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019, which has been passed but not yet declared in force and is intended to replace the Police Services Act, will require City Council, when appointing or reappointing a member to the Police Services Board, to consider the following. First bullet, the need to ensure that the Police Service Board is representative of the area it serves, having regard for the diversity of the population in the area. Second bullet, the need for the Police Service Board to have members with the prescribed competencies, if any. And third bullet, any applicable diversity plan. And whereas the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019, when it comes into force, will also require City Council to consider the results of a potential appointee's police record check that was prepared within the past 12 months before appointing him or her or them as a member of a police services board. And whereas the future requirements of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 may help to inform the recruitment process for the public member of the Ottawa Police Services Board. And whereas a selection panel of members of council appointed through the nominating committee process will be responsible for reviewing applications for the public member position and making recommendations to council. Therefore, be it resolved that council approve an increase in the honorarium for a public member of the Ottawa Police Services Board who is elected as chair to $54,000 to be funded from the existing honorarium and the council administration budget credit that would otherwise go to the constituency services budget of a member of council who is elected as chair of the board. And be it further resolved that council direct the Office of the City Clerk to revise the recruitment process and advertisements for the Ottawa Police Services Board public member to reflect that council may recommend to the board that this public member be appointed as chair, and that the candidate recommended for appointment may be required to undertake a police records check. And be it further resolved that the selection panel for the Ottawa Police Services Board be directed to take into account the provisions of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 when recommending the appointments to council.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. Next, we have a notice of motion from Councillor Luloff.
I'll do the same so we can get out of the way for the next meeting. So whereas the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario has introduced a manufacturer's limited liquor sales license, also known as a by the glass license, to permit Ontario alcoholic beverage producers that already hold a manufacturer's license from the AGCO to sell and serve their own beverages to patrons for consumption in single servings at their manufacturing sites under certain conditions. And whereas because by the glass license applicants are exempt from the public advertising process, the AGCO requires a resolution from the municipal council indicating the support of the local community for by the glass licenses as a part of the application for this license. And whereas the existing council resolution passed on January 30th, 2021 is set to expire on December 31st, 2022, whereas the economic development potential of the alcoholic beverage manufacturing industry, it is desirable to proactively provide support to existing manufacturers that may wish to apply to the AGCOs for manufacturers limited liquor sales license or by the glass license. Therefore, be it resolved that the city hereby supports the application of any manufacturer already duly licensed by the AGCO in the city of Ottawa seeking a manufacturer's limited liquor sales license by the glass license from the AGCO until revoked by council or the AGCO changes the requirements. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Luloff. I'm not aware of any other notices of motion, so let's move to item 16, the confirmation bylaw. Councillor Gower.
That the following bylaw be read and passed to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting of November 30th, 2022.
Seconded by Councillor Kitts. Is the motion carried? All right. Are there any written inquiries? No, thank you. Motion to adjourn then. Councillor Gower.
That the proceedings of the city council meeting of November 30th, 2022 be adjourned.
Seconded by Councillor Kitts. Is the motion carried? All right. It is 10:57 a.m. I believe it's also very good timing. Thank you, everyone. Merci.